It gives its name to world-famous studios. It has a church named after Santa Claus, and it's the most southerly parish in Middlesex. We're in Shepperton. Now, at enormous expense, in fact, it's being paid absolutely nothing, I've managed to acquire the services of one Nick Pollard who knows all about our place, our postcard place, Shepperton. Nick, how did Shepperton begin?
Well, Russell, Shepperton really built up round the core of the church square, the old church down here by the river, and developed from there. The site of the medieval church, we think, was probably more towards the river. There's records in about 1605-06 of the old church being washed away by an inundation of the Thames. So we feel that it's likely that the church stood over here, further towards the Thames.
And the church is over there now, then. So what you're saying is that it would have been here, but now it's over there.
That's right.
And that's the tower sticking up.
Yeah, there's a bit of a story about that tower, actually. It features in quite a famous work of fiction. H.G. Wells lived in the area, and he set most of the action of War of the Worlds in and around this area. And in fact, he sets the destruction of one of the Martian war machines right here in the river next to us. And as the machine is destroyed, it stumbles onto the bank and actually knocks down the tower of Shepperton Church.
Well, War of the Worlds.
That's right.
And all they've got now is little red boats. Could they be powered by Martians? We don't know. Powered by them, handled by them, piloted by them. Now, being so near Shepperton Studios, there must have been lots and lots of famous people come to drink at the pubs. But what about any royal visits over the years?
Well, I think the only royal connection we can really claim to here is that Queen Anne is supposed to have visited the church in about 1710 when her chaplain was rector here.
And did she have much to do with that tower?
Well, apparently, yes. When she came to see the rector, because the church had been built without a tower, she thought it looked really incomplete without a tower and was most insistent that he build one on.
Did she give any money towards it?
Not that I'm aware of, no. I think that fell on the parishioners of Shepperton.
Typical, isn't it? You should have a tower, but they don't give you a penny towards it. Just get yourself a tower, but find the money yourself. Let's go and see your beloved tower.
Right.
Here's your famous tower you were speaking about just earlier,
yes.
and your walkway, your stairs.
A very unusual external staircase. The tower was added on later to the main part of the church. You can see the towers in brick, where the main part of the church is in this rather attractive checkerboard of chalk and flint. But because of the small size of the tower, they could only fit a staircase in outside.
And there's another staircase at the back, isn't there?
Indeed, yes. The gravestone's actually mentioned in Three Men in a Boat. Apparently, the three men of the story meet up at Shepperton Lock, and in fact, one of them is so concerned that the other is going to come and have a look at this gravestone and spend ages looking at it that he contrives to knock his hat into the river to distract his attention. So, in fact, they don't come around here after all.
No, those three in the boat get everywhere.
Absolutely.
Well, into the church, I think, now, Nick.
OK.
In we go. I'm in need of a vicar. I need help.
Well, after Three Men in a Boat, it's now Three Men in a Church. We're joined by the vicar, Chris Swift.
I'm right in the middle of St Nicholas's Church now in Shepperton. It's a very tiny, I suppose the word would be bijou.
Very bijou, domestic in scale, but we can shoehorn 270 in here when we have to.
Right. Now, we've just been down by the Thames with Nick, and he basically says there was a church before that, down that neck of the woods.
The site is probably 1,300 years old. There's certainly a doomsday priest here, but the medieval church fell down. There's only one picture of it in the Bodleian Library, drawn from the other side of the river, and it had a spire. But it collapsed and was rebuilt in the early 1600s.
And now it's got a tower.
Now it's got a tower, Order of Queen Anne.
Anything else interesting about this church we should know? St Nicholas is unusual because along the Thames we found so many St Marys.
Well, he's also a very popular saint. I don't know how he runs in the pecking order, but he must be in the top 10. Don't know why. He's a Turkish bishop, except it wasn't Turkey then. 4th century, but lots of legends about him. He's the patron saint of sailors, students, children, and pawnbrokers.
Right.
Pawnbrokers because he once gave a dowry of 3 bags of gold to 3 girls who otherwise would have landed in prostitution. And saved them.
You saved them? You saved them. See,
He
I'm
saved
saying
them,
you
no.
saved them. You see, I'm already thinking of you now as a St Nicholas character, because you do have this great stature and warmth, which Father Christmas will have had. Is this the same man?
I once did it as a holiday job,
Did
many years ago.
Is this the same St Nicholas, though, that people think of as
Santa Claus.
Santa Claus?
Yes, and largely based on the giving of gifts, particularly that story. His greatest feat, I suppose, was to save 3 boys from a pickle jar. They had been killed by a wicked uncle, or some such relation, and put in a pickle jar. And on our pulpit here on the bottom we have the 3 boys coming out of the brine jar.
Right.
He resurrects them.
That's a wonderfully carved pulpit. What else about the church is your favourite part?
It's an interesting church because it actually has 1 or 2 features which are very unusual indeed. That's the squire's pew. He's a Muslim now, so he doesn't have much call for it, but it has its own external staircase. George Eliot sat up there once making notes on the Church of England, saying what a rotten and turgid institution it was, and then put them all in a novel. She used to visit the manor house quite regularly. We use it now for the sound system, but if the Lord of the Manor was in there, only the preacher would know. And if he left, only the preacher would know.
Right.
So if he didn't like the sermon, he'd be off.
Now, as Lord of the Manor of Ashford, I've not got one of those at St Matthew's Church, I can tell you, in Ashford.
Oh, it's not as old, of course.
No.
Not as distinguished. The other thing, I suppose, that's
You're being too kind here. Go on.
that's notable is that in this pulpit, a very famous hymn writer called J.M. Neal, the author of King Wenceslas, preached his first sermon.
Really?
Neal was a boy who was partly tutored in the house as a very young child, quite a famous Anglican of the 19th century. And he came back here to see his old rector and preached his first sermon here.
Now, this is a Jacobean church. I
Yeah.
don't think I've ever been in one.
There aren't many. There are 1 or 2 college chapels I know that are Jacobean, but this is an unusual building, simply because I guess they had to rebuild at a time when otherwise they'd have tried to live off the medieval stock. But they were forced to by the collapse of the building. So we get this very unusual, very domestic church. It's made for preaching in. It's a preaching box.
Ah, right.
Yeah.
Hence, it's very intimate.
Yeah.
It's like a little theatre in a way, isn't it?
The selling point of the early 17th century church was you got a better class of sermon from a university-trained Anglican clergyman than you did from a popish priest. It wasn't true then, and it probably isn't true now, but, that was the selling point. They built their churches for teaching.
Well, you've got a wonderful voice. I mean, there's something very Sir Henry Irving about it. I bet they get a very, very good...
It's very rewarding to preaching because you
bit
can
of
eyeball
sermoning
them.
here.
You can eyeball them all the time, including the gallery once you're up there. Yeah.
Now let's pop over the parish boundary to Littleton and go to Shepperton Studios and meet Derek Threadgall, author of the studio's history.
We're at this little River Ash now, but why was such a tiny little river like this, in the middle of Middlesex, well, in the southern part of Middlesex, so important to a film industry?
Well, in terms of Shepperton, Alexander Corder shot the river scenes for Sanders of the River here. Not many people know that the original title of it was Basalmbo, but obviously they changed it. And it's rumoured that the owner of the studio at the time, Norman Loudon, made enough money from hiring out the back lot here at the river to build the 4 big stages of the studio, A, B, C and D. Ironically, Corder was here in 1933-34, and he came here and bought the place in 1946. And from 1946 to 56, Corder, Alexander and his brothers, yes, the great Alexander Corder, ran the studio. And at that time, some of the best films and the greatest films that have been made in the British film industry were made here.